We've got a cracker of a show for you this week. Glenn talks to Steve LaMorte, the director of Screamboat.
And I think we are up to 1993 in our years of film countdown.
In our film battle, it's Telefon versus Bells.
We've got recommendations coming up.
And I'm hosting. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Good Movie Monday, your home for nerdy cinematic ramblings. I am your host, Ben Helwig, and next to me is my trusty co-host, Mr. Glenn Cochran. How's it going?
It's going good. I just realised I've got a little bit of a problem. And
that's all right, mate. The first step is admitting it.
Well, we do this every week. I drink a beverage while we do it every week. And yet this week, for some reason, I don't know whether to go over the microphone or under.
This is the toilet paper conundrum. Like when you go to someone's house and you have to use the toilet and their toilet paper is under, I'm like, I got to turn around because it should be over.
Yeah, you're doing them a favour.
Yeah. So this is how it works. This is the real way.
Yeah. So tried and true, over seems to be the winning ticket. But I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Excellent.
Let's get the must-dos out of the way.
Okay,
why don't you check out goodmoviemonday.com.
Yep.
Our website.
Mm-hmm. It's on the screen. See?
It's on the screen. It has all the links to all our social media, and we are on all of them.
Yep.
Even the ones that aren't popular anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And it's always important to click, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, because it does go a long way for us. When we have potential sponsors saying what's your reach like? Where are you at? And if we can have something to show, it makes a difference.
Like I've literally offered to sell my firstborn, and they've said, how many views do you think that would get?
Yeah, I know, that's right. And does he look like you?
And yeah, they all know. There's
that's
there's
why
no
we
way.
have no sponsors right now.
There's no way that guy's procreating. It also has all the previous episodes of the show. And Glenn, you've talked to some outrageous people during the length of this show, which I don't know.
We're fifth year, I think.
Fifth year, bigger guests than we have had any right to have gotten.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. I've looked up, those videos that says the key to a successful podcast. It's right, try to attract top tier guests. We've had as top tier as they can get, and you'd think it would bode much better for us by now.
I think it's because they're only on the show for 15, 20 minutes, and the rest is us.
Yeah, that's quite possible. But sometimes, that's the key to getting the top tier guests is promising them a short amount of time.
Yeah.
There's not much commitment involved.
Although I have noticed on the interviews that I do sit in on, when you go, all right, won't take up too much of your time. Thanks for being on the show. They always look surprised.
Well,
that's it?
That's the interesting thing. That does only happen when you're on it.
Yeah.
Maybe you just make it that much more fun for them. I don't know. There's definitely, obviously, people that followed us for a long time would know, there's a different dynamic when it's a two of us.
Yeah.
And I quite often, as you would know, I always invite you to come on. I say to the publicist, do you mind if Ben sits in on it? Because it's guaranteed to be a more fun experience than
because I don't prepare and just ask stupid questions.
You like to jump in at the right time. That's what I love about it. And I even love it when you cut me off sometimes, because I like to then throw it back to you. And it's great. The
problem is that there's no signal that I can throw you that I've got a question.
That's okay.
And it's just the way it
makes it more casual.
Because of the delay, I have to cut you off, because otherwise...
It makes it more I don't mind. I like it. Having said that, you're not on this week's interview.
No, I don't even remember when this one came up. I don't think I was offered this one.
No, I don't think you were either. It was a last-minute kind of thing. It just came together
very quickly.
Out of the blue. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before we go on, I just want to quickly address something from last week's show. So we had our guest, speaking of, was Eli Craig, the director of Clown. Was it Clown in the Cornfield?
Yes.
And Tucker Dale versus Evil.
Yes.
So after the fact, which I really should have known this before the fact, but I was 4 days old. 4 days old. I was 4 days ago old when I discovered that he's Sally Field's son.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I kept thinking all the way through, talking to him on Zoom, I'm like, you are so familiar to me. You've got that face. It's a Sally Field face.
You were like, I really want to have sex with you, and I can't figure out why.
I don't understand this compulsion. What's going on?
So, the funny thing is, too, is that Viavision have just released that Gidget box set, and you've been talking about it off camera, or off mic, I should say.
Yeah.
non-stop. So yeah, you really.
But here's me. I put a lot of research into my interviews, so much so that I don't even realize that he's a nipper baby.
It's like well, it's because he didn't reach out to do the ring.
I appreciate nepo baby. I hate that term, by the way. I'm being very facetious, but I appreciate it when they go by their own original name and they don't cash in on. And that's why Emilio Estevez is so cool, because he's not a Sheen.
Yeah,
he's an Estevez. Well, anyway, there you go.
Although that is his dad's real name, isn't it?
It is, that's right. But there you go. Which makes it even worse that Charlie Sheen took it.
Yeah, I'm going to take a dad's fake name.
Yeah, I'm ashamed of my heritage.
Yeah.
I just want the money. But there you go. Eli Craig, Sally Field's son. Who would have known?
The speaking of, I don't want to bring the show down already at this quick point.
You
but,
usually bring it down by now anyway.
I think it just,
just your presence.
Just my presence. Yeah. But I think in the last couple of days, Joe Don Baker passed away.
God's sake, yes, absolutely. Which what was that Dirty Harry kind of movie he did back in the day? It's his name. It's a one name title.
Framed?
No. Barker, something like that. You keep talking and I'll look it up. But God, what an actor this guy was.
Yeah, Walking Tall was his big one. He was mainly kind of a 70s guy. By the time the 80s rolled around, he'd kind of graduated to John Vernon, Krusty Dean roles. Yep. Though he did end up being in Pierce Brosnan's first Bond film, and I don't know if his character actually carried over to any of the subsequent Pierce Brosnan Bond films. But he was like this. He was the Felix Leiter of those films. But big ones for me: Welcome Home, Soldier Boys, Charlie Varick. What a fucking film that was! Don Siegel, The Outfit, Walking Tall, Framed. Joysticks, that was one of his 80s ones.
Mitchell was the one I was thinking
of. That's a great film too.
Yeah, really good.
So many bangers. Today I sat down and watched Golden Needles. Have you ever heard of this film?
I have not.
This film is an amazing film. It's got a great cast. Joe Don Baker, Jim Kelly as a special guest star. Roy Chow, who is... He's the guy from Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom. At the start where he's in Shanghai. I think he's in Shanghai when he's getting Hachi.
Oh yeah,
and he's he's the main gangster on the.
That's right.
On the other side, Anne Southern pops up. But the Golden Needles refer to this golden statue that has. These acupuncture needles in it with the exact location on the body. And apparently only one of these statues was cast for the Emperor of China that would give him virility, return his virility to him and keep him strong and keep him a voracious lover. And the film opens on them explaining this, and then this guy taking the statue to this old toothless man who's like lying in bed with his 4 young wives, and the guy does the acupuncture, and then he stretches his hands, which are basically a metaphor for him getting an erection, and he basically then shoos the man out and hustles the 4 excited young women, and this guy is repulsive, into the bedroom, and they're so excited for him, and you're like, surely this is your worst nightmare. And then, of course, 2 dudes with flamethrowers show up and burn everyone to a crisp and steal the statue.
As you do.
And then, of course, it's up to Joe Don Baker and Jim Kelly to steal it back.
What a great concept for a movie. Imagine a movie where it's like a treasure hunt or something, and the acupuncture or the map of acupuncture on the body, like there is one particular formulation that elicits like an answer from somebody.
Yeah.
And you've got to get the right code of acupuncture.
Oh, I should mention so that if it's done correctly, you gain like a return to youth, virility, the powers to be a spectacular lover. If done incorrectly, you die a horrible, painful death.
Do you remember all of those ninja movies where there's always a pressure point and like it kills someone instantaneously? But
it's always, the thing I don't get is it's always instant yet incredibly painful. I'm like, well, if it's instant,
it should be painful.
How painful can it be?
Momentarily painful.
Yeah.
As a kid, it terrified me that I might accidentally kill myself by touching the wrong part of my body.
Yes, or that you would go blind.
Yeah. Well, I can't get behind my ears to do the waka waka waka. Shit. Cool. Hey, we went to the movies in the last...
We did go to the movies.
Which is an interesting one. So we went and saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Which
AKA Dead Reckoning Part 2.
That's right. This movie was supposed to come out this Thursday, but then they pulled the release date back and it got released on a Saturday. I've not seen a film released theatrically on a Saturday for a long time.
It is funny. I think it may have had something to do with the Cannes Film Festival because I did see Stu Simpson, who's currently in Cannes, saying, I'm off to go see the premiere for Mission Impossible. So I think maybe that had something to do with it.
They went as far as changing all the posters and the marketing.
That's a pretty... I mean, these days, I guess there's a lot of digital posters, so it's not that expensive, but it's still a big deal.
It fucked me up at work, I could tell you, because I had a whole strategy plan for, that theatrical release this week and had to pull half of it back a week. And it just, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you got other shit on, it is.
Yeah.
All right, so we saw this movie, which...
So, what was it, 2 hours, 40 minutes?
No.
3 hours?
It was almost 3 hours. It was 250. Actually, it was 170 minutes on the dot. And
right, so you could get away with a VHS E180 to record this off, but you couldn't because with ads,
long speed.
Yeah, you'd have to put it on long play. Yeah, that's right. With ads, you wouldn't be able to fit it on that tape.
Firstly, the most outrageous thing about the fact that it's 3 hours long is that it is part 2 of one story, right? So if you take both films, you could have really whittled it down to 1 2-hour movie.
And the thing that doesn't really, that I don't understand, and I'm sure VFX is a part of it, but they shot it all at the same time. It's not that they were still shooting.
They didn't. They went and shot part 2 after the junket for the first one. Yeah, I'm sure
they weren't sure that it was going to be a success.
I'm sure they would have done some filming, but I remember, because I was on the junket trail for that one, and I went up to Sydney to talk to them, and Christopher...
you got to talk to Haley Atwell.
Yeah, Christopher...
Son of a bitch.
Christopher McQuarrie, the director, I asked him about, have you begun the second one? And he goes, well, pre-production we have, but we haven't shot it yet.
Wow.
So there you go. Look, I'm a fan of the series. I do think it's the best action franchise since James Bond, I think, which you have issue with because you don't like the James Bond franchise that much.
Post Sean Connery, I'm not that interested.
Such an old fuddy-duddy you are.
and I'm not a huge fan of the Mission Impossible franchise either. Not that there's... Look, my problem with the franchise was my problem with this film. The stuff just goes on too long. Mm-hmm. I felt like the first Transformers film, which I went to see on my birthday at the cinema, and I fell asleep during the final fight scene. I was out for 20 minutes, and when I woke up, it was still that fight scene. And that's what this is like. It's just I get it. Mate, they're impressive, but
we complain about the running time of movies a lot, and we just have to face reality that apparently it is what the audience want, because I have seen interviews and whatnot of someone talking about their new movie. Look, it is only 90 minutes long, but hear me out. And it's like, no, that's perfect.
That's perfect.
I don't have to hear anything. Take my money. But anyway, as far as the Mission Impossibles go, look, I do think it's a great entry. I had a lot of fun with it. However, this is probably more convoluted than any of the previous entries. I feel like this one almost felt like they were saying goodbye to the franchise by doing lots of flashbacks to the other films, tying it into the first one.
That's the thing that is kind of upsetting about the runtime. Yeah. Is that I reckon a good 40 minutes of it is flashbacks and montages of the previous entries. And maybe this is the swan song to the series.
No, because now they've both come out saying they have every intention of going for more.
How old is Tom Cruise going to get?
He cited in an interview at Cannes, he said that, if Harrison Ford can do it in Indiana Jones and if they can pull off all these other legacy sequels, then why can't I? And so he's going for it.
Yeah, but Harrison Ford, the Indiana Jones character, is playing like a 60-year-old.
Yeah, well, he will too. I find that what's interesting about this one, though, is that I feel like half of this movie was Top Gun. I feel like he was Maverick again.
There's so many carry-on characters from Top Gun in this.
Yeah, it's so weird. Look, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the final act, the showcase of it, the aerobatic stuff in the airplanes was fantastic. It was clearly Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a plane. It looked fantastic. We saw it at IMAX and it was massive. But my only issue, I don't even mind the runtime at the end of the day. It was just convoluted. It went too much in and out of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, for me, it was just too much, so much exposition.
Yeah.
So much flashbacks. It would have made a phenomenal 2-hour movie.
Also, the chick that came back, the Asian chick, what was her name? What's her name? Pom
Klentoff.
Klentoff, whatever. Yeah. She didn't need to be there. She did nothing throughout the whole movie. Really, she did nothing.
No, but neither did Simon Pegg.
Or he had to be there to do the tech stuff, right? She had no purpose, none whatsoever. It's like, why did you bring her back?
Yeah.
Contract. She signed on to one really, really long movie, and they split it in two.
Like, when Casino Royale came out, and it was a big deal that James Bond had fallen in love again.
Yep.
Even though he literally does it inside of 10 minutes being on a train. Like, he's got like an hour and a half train ride from London to Paris or wherever the hell it is. And he's in love. It's the love of his life, and he's going to... And the goo-goo eyes that he's making it at Hayley Atwell throughout this film... when literally Rebecca Ferguson has just gotten killed.
Yep.
You're like, come on, man.
Moving on. Speaking of Bond, this had a Moonraker moment when Moonraker at the end, they're in the capsule in the water.
Yeah.
It had that moment, didn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking about your Bond analogy when that happened. I'm like, if this was Bond, he'd be banging her right now.
With that old lady watching.
She would have come in and joined in.
Anyway, so there we go. Mission Impossible. I mean, it's a big screen experience. So if you love the other ones, you'll like it.
Take a pillow or something in there for your back, or maybe one of those machines that you put on your feet so they vibrate to keep the blood flow going.
The shock to Ben's system when we're at the 30-minute mark, and suddenly you hear that intro music start, and you realize, oh, the credits haven't even begun yet.
Yeah. I feel like it's a movie and the credits are at the end. No, this is still the start.
That's right. We were just bringing you up to speed.
I just don't I know. They literally could have made this 2 movies too with the runtime. They could have been 2 90-minute movies.
Imagine if they just kept fracturing one movie and just kept going and going and going.
Like a serial.
That's right.
An hour and a half serial. Next week on Mission Impossible. Like a TV series. Almost like a TV series.
The next Final Reckoning.
Yeah. Final Reckoning Part 2. The return.
Number 3.
Return of Reckoning. Yeah. Even more Reckoning.
That's right. Just when you thought you were wrecked.
Yeah. Mission Impossible 14. Even more Reckoning.
Right. Ending this series, impossible.
All the Reckoning's Reckoning.
It's Terrific TV Tuesday, the only Tuesday TV segment that drops on a Monday.
So I've decided to go around the microphone. How's that?
Just put it there and save yourself the question.
I will spill it if I put it there.
And I will spill it.
All right. What are we up to?
I actually jumped onto the old SBS On Demand for my TV show this week.
Let me repeat last week. Wow.
Wow. It was good to give old... It's not Auntie because it's not the ABC.
Were you in search of boobs? Is that why you were there?
No, since the Green Guide stopped being published, I don't know what shows have boobs on it, which don't.
That is true.
Funnily enough, I heard about this I think because of an ad for SBS On Demand. That's how I even found out about it. There is a new, it must be like the fifth or sixth Sherlock Holmes based TV series in the last 5 or 6 years, I think.
No shit.
This is Sherlock Holmes and daughter. This one, but
wasn't Enola Holmes his daughter?
A sister.
Ah, all right. Well,
Enola Holmes is the sister with Mycroft. This one, but this time Sherlock Holmes, and it's great casting though. I kind of wish it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Is David Thewlis.
Oh, that's really good casting.
Perfectly cast as Sherlock Holmes. Although him or is it Paul Kay? Dennis Pennis
would have been great.
He would also be great.
Yeah. So, other than Basil, who's your favorite Sherlock Holmes? And do you rate the Guy Ritchie ones?
I don't know if I went to see the second one. I would have liked the Guy Ritchie ones a lot more had Jude Law been Holmes and not Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, that was what kind of wrecked it for me, was the fact that Robert Downey Jr. It was like a complete rewrite. Remember when freaking they did the TV version of Doctor Who? Like, not the TV, the movie version of Doctor Who with Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
Whatever that guy's name is that played the Doctor.
Paul McCann.
Paul McCann. That ruined the Doctor for me. Like, it's the same kind of thing with...
well, at least Paul McCann is English. Yeah.
It just didn't quite work.
Much better than the latest Doctor, who's quit already.
they all quit. Like, this is another Christopher Eccleston. Like, this is like, I'll do this, iconic role.
Yeah.
Quit.
2 seasons. But that's the good thing about the Doctor is that they've worked that as a gimmick of the show.
Yes, that's right.
It's a weird series. It's pretty, like I have enjoyed the first 3 episodes, although I think only 1 has dropped on SBS On Demand. There's no Dr. Watson in this. At the start of the show, Watson, or not before the beginning of the show, Watson has been kidnapped by an international crime syndicate that have kind of taken over because Moriarty has been in prison. So this is post all of Sherlock's greatest adventures. Moriarty is in prison. So this group who leave like red thread at the crime scene have come onto the scene, and they've kidnapped Sherlock Holmes's housekeeper and Dr. Watson,
right?
Who I think may have been hitched in this series, and have basically threatened him that if he gets involved in any of their business, they will be killed. Okay. And the housemaid was also kidnapped, and she's turned up dead, and so he can't even investigate that without fear of them being killed.
Yeah,
and then this girl, played by Blue Hunt, who's from the originals. She plays this character called Amelia Rojas, and she's American. And her mother is killed at the kind of start, and so she, her mother kind of leaves a note saying, if you're ever in trouble, go, seek out Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
because they, she's been reading his stories since she was a kid in the Penny Dreadfuls.
Yeah.
Go visit him, and then on her deathbed, or like she leaves a note saying Sherlock Holmes is actually your father, and of course, so she goes over to London to meet him. He was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm certainly not your father, but he does need a new maid, and she proves herself to be an able kind of investigator. So they kind of trade off. Like he can send her on missions to investigate this crime syndicate that he's not allowed to.
Yep.
And in exchange, he will teach her how to be a detective and look into her mother's death, which, as it turns out, has also got something to do with this crime syndicate. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. Ardal O'Hanlon pops up in it as the butler.
So is it BBC, did you say?
Not sure if it's BBC or not. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you ever see, do you ever watch the movie, or what did you think of the movie, Sherlock Holmes' younger, smarter brother, Gene Wilder?
I have not seen that. The one I saw, which I thought was the same thing, but because that Mycroft thing is a thing that comes up in a lot of Sherlock Holmes things about how Mycroft is the smarter one, is Without a Clue. Where he's an idiot, and it's actually Watson.
Yes.
Which I love.
Well, yeah.
I love that as a kid.
You should check it out. It's
I've got, funnily enough, I have the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
which means I will never watch it.
It's Gene Wilder considered the companion piece to Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Does Peter Boyle sing and dance?
They were made back and back. No, but there is the kangaroo hop dance, which is apps with Marty Feldman and Madeline Kahn and Gene Wilder. It is just a glorious piece of cinema.
Yes. Lovely. I'll have to check it out.
Hey, a little bit of TV news that I read before I jump into mine. There is an American remake of Doc Martin coming.
Oh, really?
With Josh Charles as Doc Martin.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting casting.
He goes to like a seaside village in America. It's the same premise.
Is he like a faints at the sight of blood, and that's
I don't
why
know.
He has to
they haven't really given much away other than that he's going to star. I don't even know if it's called Doc Martin, but it's definitely a remake of it.
The funny thing is that Doc Martin, I think, has been going so long that I don't think people even referred to as being on the spectrum when
not
that
only
started.
That, like the premise of the show was him like being a fish out of water in that town. Like that wore off after half a season. Like,
no, that I don't think that did. I think that stayed true. But
I mean, how long could you be in the same place and be a fish out of water
and still be weird?
Yeah.
But everyone in the town is also weird.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I love Doc Martin.
I had it in mind to do one particular show, which I did tell you about last week, but another show crept in, and I'm going to go with that instead because I've been looking forward to this for so long. I forgot it was coming. It dropped, and on that day, I binged the whole lot. I was up really late at night, and work was a struggle the next day. Let's just say that. It's the new documentary on Netflix, the Fred and Rosemary West story, the British American
House of Horrors,
American Horror Story. It is fantastic. So if when you're young, we all go through a rite of passage where we kind of like are obsessed with serial killers. We go to the school library, we take our books, we look at all these nasty photos.
I was going to say that was Teen Girls.
Yeah.
Like something happens where it's puppies and dolphins, and then they hit puberty and it's serial killers.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, if you're into serial killers, like Fred and Rosemary West is like it's right up there with the doozies, right? It's a really nasty story. So they've done this new documentary on Netflix, like they have done with all the other serial killers. This one, what I did not know is how much actual real footage of the crime scenes and Fred at the crime scene telling them there's a body there, you might want to look over there. Like,
wow.
It is all on camera. And I'd never seen Fred West outside of like news footage, and this is actual police footage, and it is gobsmacking.
Ooh.
Gobsmacking, right? And because he leads the police along, it starts with they find one body in the backyard, and I'm not going to spoil things for people because you could read about it, but if you want to go into this like blind, it is a real fantastic journey. But it starts off like he goes, oh, okay, yeah, there's one body there. And he had confessed to that immediately, hoping that they'd go, okay, you did it, off you go. And then just they kept finding more and more and more. And it's just like there's one moment right at the start. So once again, not a spoiler, where they have a woman that's, what do they call it? The appropriate adult, which is a term they call for like a counselor that sits in and all that. And they go to the crime scene and she says to him afterwards, why were you giggling and smiling at me at the crime scene? Because you can see him. He's like, the cops are there and he's like, this. Why were you doing that? He goes, didn't you see the other one? There's a bone sticking out of the ground. On camera, like the police didn't pick up on it. Bone sticking out of the ground. Anyway, such a disturbing story and such a fascinating look into this. What it doesn't do, which you can then go and read about further, it only scrapes the surface of the sexual exploitation side of it, right? Because they were sexual thrill killers. Yeah, they would torture girls whilst getting off.
Right? It's like the Hounds of Love. There's a whole bunch of movies that are kind of loosely, not loosely based, but based on the idea. So like honeymoon killers, all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So it does go into it, but it doesn't really do a deep dive into it. They go into like the sex dungeon, but they don't really talk about what was done.
Because wasn't it like she would help him pick up the women and encourage them to sleep with them, and then she would get jealous of them and kill them or get him to kill them. Is that the kind of...
like yes and no. Yes and no. Like I won't say anything on the mic, but it goes further than that. Like it really does. And I just highly recommend it. But if you are fascinated by that sex side of it, once you've watched it, then go deep diving further. And I suspect the only reason they didn't go that deep is because they did bring so many of the families back to talk about it.
Is that a section on Pornhub I can go to?
That's right.
On the dark web?
Far
Put up those VPNs, folks, if you're going to go down that path.
It's one of the better true crime documentaries, sheerly for the point that they've got all that footage. Like, I just had no comprehension that so much of it would exist.
Yeah, right.
And not only the video, but the audio of him in the interrogation room, and but there's not much of her in this until the final episode. So it's mostly Fred.
Maybe that's season 2.
And then no, they conclude it, but they bring her into it right at the end in a heavy way. So yeah, there you go. And I'll talk about the other show next week. That is, unless another one comes along.
Another true crime doco. 10 Rillington Place.
I also discovered once I watched it and did a deep dive, they made a movie, like a tally movie about Fred and Rosemary West with Dominic West as Fred, and Emily Watson was in it. She played the appropriate adult.
Right.
And that was the name of the show was Appropriate Adult.
Amazing.
Maybe that's my
show for next week.
Hey, what's happening? Listen up. You know Glenn and Ben? Well, those crazy motherfuckers about to drop a brand new interview. God damn.
All right, Ben. I did get to chat with Steven LaMorte about Screamboat. And if you don't know what Screamboat is, firstly, he's the director of The Mean One, which was that Grinch horror movie. There's this whole crop of old IPs turned into horror movies.
Mockbuster
Winnie the
type.
Pooh was one of them.
Yeah.
Blood and Honey.
There's a new Peter Pan one, isn't there, or something?
Yeah, Peter and Wendy or something like that. Yeah. Cinderella's Revenge, all that kind of stuff.
Imagine if Peter and Wendy is the Wests. Like if that's the... That's the thing of
What
it.
are some other ones you'd think about making? I remember when I spoke to... You were on the Winnie the Pooh interview, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we spoke to him, we were like, I started pitching ideas, and it was the reception to it was like, yeah, I haven't heard that before. Okay.
I mean, they could do Alice in Wonderland, but just do it as a
Wes Craven tried to do
psychedelic
that.
trip. Yeah,
Wes Craven tried to do Dark Wonderland.
yeah, right.
Never took off, and it would have been such a great concept. Anyway, Screamboat essentially is Steamboat Willie, the classic Mickey Mouse. It's the very first film that Mickey Mouse appeared in.
Which
You
I
all
think-
know the footage where he's like whistling as he's driving the steamboat. And
It dropped out of copyright last year.
and that night at midnight is when they announced this movie.
this one,
So you'll hear all about it in this chat. But have a listen. It's such a bonkers movie. And we'll catch you afterwards.
We're not alone.
I heard stories about a monster that lurked in the underbelly of the ferry. After 90 years, he's actually out in the public. Steamboat Willie.
It's the happiest place on earth.
So yeah, once again, I do appreciate you making time for me. Once again, it's good to be chatting with you again about another crazy ass bonkers movie.
Thank you. Crazy ass bonkers is what I do.
Yes, absolutely. So, if I read correctly, no sooner had the film Steamboat Willie fallen into public domain, you announced you were doing a movie on it. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, the Steamboat Willie went into public domain January 1st, 2024, and January 2nd, we let loose to the world the idea that we were going to turn him into a mischievous, miniature, murderous mouse and a horror film starring David Howard Thornton.
How long had you been eyeing off the whole property before deciding you wanted to do it? Because obviously you'd put a lot of thought into it.
Yes, well, it's something that we knew after the Mean One we wanted to. Chucky, I love the mug. Got it. You could see the clear inspirations in our film and some of our puppet work. We knew that Steamboat Willie was going to come into the public domain, and we knew that after the Mean One, we really wanted to do a follow-up that would be bigger and sillier and funnier, but also take a character that people loved and, sort of do something horrific with it. And so as we were looking around to see what would be the thing we were going to do next, we said, well, it's not in the public domain yet, but Steamboat Willie might come into the public domain. And so, we sort of been circling it and thinking about it. And as we got closer and closer to January, it became clear, oh my goodness, this thing might actually happen. And then January 1st, the clock strikes midnight, the clouds parted, and a script landed on my desk, fully finished. Who knew such a thing was possible? And we went right into work on going from development to preparing to make the movie.
Amazing. And like you said, it's much bigger than Mean One. It's immediately slicker. It's got such a great aesthetic and tone to it. Can you talk about the production design of this one? Because it is so cartoony, and yet I feel like you filmed some on location. Obviously, you've done some in studio. What was your intention with the design?
Yeah, well, we really wanted to start by bringing the film into a very real, very tactile sort of New York City feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted the underbelly of the boat to feel smoky and mechanical. And when you're actually in New York City, we wanted you to see sort of those icons and feel the fog. I mean, most people think of New York, they think of that iconic skyline, but they don't really think of just how foggy it gets. And especially on that bay, I've taken that boat. I'm from Staten Island originally, so I've taken that boat thousands of times. And sometimes you're just on this thing and it's so murky and all the skylights are blooming and it's really spooky. So we wanted to sort of start there and make sure that the whole thing felt real. And then as the movie progressed and the mouse starts coming out doing more and more crazy things, then we start drifting into sort of this magical realism and something that's maybe a little bit more fantastical, but always grounded in practical filmmaking. We're on a real boat. He's a real mouse. It's a real guy in a suit and a real puppet and, in-camera blood and gore. And so we wanted it to feel as realistic as a miniature murderous mouse could be.
And, like, is there any hesitation for David coming on board? Like, I feel like he's really carving up a bit of a legacy for himself with these sort of roles. You know, was he there from the get-go?
We had David all in before we even had a fully formed script, because I sort of pitched him the idea, and of course we had worked together on the Mean One, and I pitched him the idea, and I said, "Here's the story we're trying to tell. Here's my vision for the character," because it was critical that we brought in someone who could bring this sort of cartoony, live action cartoon to life. And so we knew that we had to cast this person before we fully finalized the script, because otherwise not everyone can do what David does. But David was all in right from the get-go. Once he knew sort of what we were going for, what the tone was going to be, that it was going to be scary and silly, but also serious and with a lot of heart. So he was all in, and he sort of helped us develop it. He came on the boat, even though he's obviously much larger than Willie is. He came onto the boat and sort of worked out some of the movements and some of the kills. He did all of his own whistling, and his performance and his sort of his ideas behind the character really informed the way that Willie was going to grow and evolve, or I guess shrink. And so, he was just such a big part of the DNA of that character that we had to lock him in early. And as soon as we knew he was on board, then I could really have fun with writing the script.
100%, man. God, such a fun movie. Was there any pushback right from the start? Like, you've announced it the second it's gone public domain. Like, do you suddenly get, people from the other camp saying, hang on a second, not realizing, shit, we're about to have the Mickey taken out of us?
You would think that, but really no, honestly. I mean, it's been something really cool. I get more people, whether it's online or in person or otherwise, I get more people saying like, hey, we support you. This is awesome. Don't worry what anybody else says. Then I actually get any kind of hate mail or pushback, be it from a corporation or a person or otherwise. So yeah, things have been going great. I mean, the fact is, if you even take a look at the film for just a second, there is the idea of this movie that maybe us as creators, we have some issue with Disney, or that we're going to ruin Mickey Mouse. But the fact is, we love these characters. It's a love letter to them. It's a loving nod. We're like, sort of poking fun at this thing that we really care about. So, I think that as much as there might be an inclination to push back on our movie, anyone that sees it would see sort of the love and respect for the source material. Yes, he's a killer. Yes, he's a monster. I don't know if Walt Disney would appreciate what we've done to his character, but I think he would appreciate the spirit in which we did it, because it's indie filmmaking. It's, creating something people said would be impossible, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Look, I don't think you can trash Disney any more than they're doing it to themselves at the moment anyway, so...
They're making some choices, that's for sure.
Is it true that the ferry itself was owned by Pete Davidson and Colin Jost?
I can't comment on who owns the ferry or how we got it, but I can tell you that, making a movie on Staten Island and being from Staten Island, we were so grateful that sort of the Staten Island community came together and helped myself and the Fuzz on the Lens team and all the Staten Island and New York City crew that made this movie sort of make it happen. But whether or not you are able to Google or do even the slightest amount of research that leads you to the conclusion of who owns the boat is, that's anyone's guess.
I would hypothesize it's such a weird thing for a celebrity to own, in the first place. But anyway, can you talk about how long you had a lease on the ferry? Like, how long did you spend on it to shoot?
Yeah, we shot on the boat. We had about, thankfully I've ridden the boat, not just all of the ferries, because they're all different models, but I've ridden that exact ferry. Was the boat I took in my childhood. It's the boat that I used to shoot sketches on when I was in high school. It's a boat that I used to commute back and forth to college on. So I'm very familiar with the boat, and there's also lots and lots of photos. But we actually only got about a week and a half to 2 weeks of prep on the boat to sort of get it ready to shoot, because even though it was docked, it's still, the thing is massive. It seats 3,000 people. There's the captain's deck. There's the engine's room. It's all just bigger than it looks. Benches and benches and benches. So we had about 2 weeks to prep on it, and then we shot on it for about 4 weeks. Then we did another week to 10 days of studio work in a water tank. We did some time on an LED wall. We did some things at a factory to help us capture some of these elements, because we want to do a lot of in-camera practical filmmaking to make Willie seem small. And that means forced perspective, putting the actors far away from each other and having them interact and sync so that they look different sizes. And some of those things need to be done in a studio because you have to build different size props and things. So we were all over the place, spraying blood everywhere, and yeah, it was great.
Oh, mate, sounds like a really fun time. If you're making a movie, you may as well make one like this, I reckon.
That's right. Well, there's one shot in the movie where I think it's in the trailer, where there's like a bright light, the ferry is moving, and there's like a bright light shining, and it shines right at the camera, and people are like, man, how did you get that shot? And so we're on a tiny little second boat in the bay. It's like, 1 o'clock in the morning on this tiny little boat. And I'm yelling at the boat driver, like, get closer, get closer. And that shot, the light shines right at the lens because that's the ferry pulling the horn saying, get out of the way. We're going to run you over. Like we're, because we're just this tiny little boat. I don't even think we're supposed to be out there at night, just like, okay, get closer to the ferry. I mean, it was such a wild time. Like no one should ever let me make a movie because that's just, we do the craziest thing. So fun.
Let's talk about the look of Steamboat Willie himself. How many designs did you go through before you got the one that we see, and do early designs resemble the actual Willie that we had all those years ago?
It was a lot. There was a lot of elements because we worked with two different teams, right? We started with Christian Cordella, who's an amazing concept artist. He's done Marvel movies, he's done DC movies, monsters, I mean, all kinds of crazy, Top Gun, like all kinds of crazy, amazing things. And he really started with not just the original design, but also with the story and the narrative. And, when you work with a concept designer, you're able to look at just the hands. How do the hands look? How are the claws going to look? And that starts to inform sort of the kills. And well, in this kill, he has to do this. And then we went to take those designs and brought them to Quantum Creation Effects, who physically built both the suit and the puppet. And that was where we got to look at the different kinds of fur. How dirty is he going to be? How big is the scale? Because the design is not just meant to exist on a piece of paper. It's meant to go on the guy that we've cast. So originally there were some designs that looked really, really, really like 100% accurate to the cartoon. But what we started to realize is that version exists in a theme park. And if you're going to cast someone like David, who needs to whistle, who needs to be able to raise his eyebrows, move his ears, move his nose, you can't really have him have this big sort of fake plastic head thing. So we started pulling inspiration more from like a mouse and a rat than from what you would see at an amusement park, because even the most amazing animatronics, something that big, you lose all of the expression of the actor. So at that point, anyone could be in there. So, we really wanted to make sure that the functionality of it was as big a part of the design as the way it looks, because the heart of Steamboat Willie is David Howard Thornton, and he needs to be able to perform.
Yeah, 100%. That's a fascinating insight into that. And like, I do love that you throw back to the original design with your animations, because that was just...
That's right.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
As a comedy lover, I was really surprised to see Joe DeRosa in there. Obviously also Brian Quinn doing these cameos, but I knew Brian Quinn was going to pop up, but I had no idea right beside him was going to be Joe. How the hell did you get them to cameo and get so slathered and covered in blood?
Well, they're both big horror fans, which a lot of people don't realize because they're so known for their comedy. They like horror. They like, of course, like zany things that are left to center. And they were in town while we were shooting, and they had talked to some of our other producers and were saying like, oh man, tell me more about that. It didn't even have a title at that point, but like, oh, you're doing that Steamboat Willie thing, right? And so I had written a much smaller role. I believe they have names in the movie, but their original roles in the script were Handsome New Yorker #1 and Charming New Yorker #2, just because we weren't sure who was going to play these roles. And they were written really small for someone to pop in and do one line. And as we're, and I talked to them, I said, here's the role, here's what we're going to do. They said, oh, that's great. And I said, don't worry, you're not going to get, you don't have to get bloody or hosed down or any of that stuff. And they were like, oh no, we want to. I've always wanted to get covered in blood in a movie. And I said, well, we've got the blood gun. So if you want to get covered in blood, we'll cover you in blood. And so they showed up and they got hit with the blood, they got hit with the water. And it's just so funny because we didn't end up using the footage. The only way to get the blood on someone's face where it looks like they've been sprayed with blood is to spray them with blood. The amount of time it would take to paint that on by hand, it's like we kind of just got to hit you with it, So we have this footage, but it's much funnier I think it's much funnier for them to just pop up covered in blood already.
Yeah.
So I had to spray these poor guys with blood, and it's like the footage didn't actually make it into the movie. So it's going to be in probably some kind of deleted scene somewhere of the two of them just like 3, 2, 1.
That'd be awesome.
Hosed down by the blood gun. It was a really fun day.
Oh, I love it. Love it. All right, a couple more questions for you. I am fascinated to know what your favorite kill in the movie is. And don't say I love them all. You got to pick one.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So I think my favorite to watch people, to be like in the room and see people seeing is definitely the kill with the deckhand, who has a surprising I don't want to spoil too much, but he has his surprising interaction with Willie and meets his untimely demise. I think that one's the most fun to watch, but the most fun to do is definitely the captain. Yeah. I mean, when the captain, his death is just such an over-the-top amount of blood. It involves every single effect we could possibly do. The puppet, David, oversized props, LED wall, green screen. I mean, it's everything. And then he gets to do that iconic Steamboat Willie moment, whistling at the wheel. I mean, the whole thing just came together so well. The orchestra's playing the strings and the blood spraying everywhere. And it's like just the culmination of the vision, bringing Steamboat Willie to life was that's my favorite.
That is a great moment, especially the whistling at the wheel. Oh, hilarious. If I can compliment you, my favorite kills, sometimes simple is best for me, and I absolutely love the forklift kill. I think that was
okay. Great. Yeah.
Just it's like someone that's been to film school. I'm just there behind the camera with you, and I'm like, oh, I just love the simplicity of that. And the electrocution scene, like that was just for me glorious, absolutely glorious.
Thank you. It's a very easy way to, well, not easy, but it's a very quick way to sort of clear the deck, because that was the biggest problem. A haunted house movie only works if the house is empty. So if it's filled with people, like, why don't they all just work together? So we needed one scene that would sort of clear the decks and, let us move on and clear the decks. We did.
I love how you put that. All right. So final question. You've done the Grinch. You've done Mickey Mouse. Have you got any others in mind now moving forward?
I have to feel really compelled to do another public domain character. I have some other movies that I'm certainly kicking around my head and things that I'm looking at potentially doing next. I think if I was to do anything else, it would be another Screamboat, because I just love this character so much. I love playing in this world. I love some of the other potential characters that we could incorporate into these movies. And as much as there are lots of other characters coming into the public domain, I think there's plenty of stories left to be told with Steamboat Willie on the Staten Island Ferry. So maybe that's a non-answer, but that's the way I want to go.
No,
sure.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's a great idea. I would love to see that. Thanks so much for having a chat. It's the second time we've had a conversation. Love what you do, and really enjoy talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for digging the movie.
1993. Was the year Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar met his maker. When his maker asked what happened, Escobar replied, "I would have got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids." Get it? He ran the meddling cartel. Thank you. I'm here all week.
Cast your mind back, Glenn, to 1993. These are the top 10 films.
Bring it on.
Number 10. The Pelican Brief.
It's a letdown already.
Number 9, Philadelphia.
Ugh.
Number 8, Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, it's a very lackluster year so far.
It's funny that the bottom 3 are films that I don't know would get made today. Number 7, Cliffhanger. That would definitely get made today.
And he's getting a legacy sequel.
Yeah. Number 6, Indecent Proposal. Probably wouldn't get made today. Number 5, The Firm, which is similar to the Pelican Brief, both John Grisham novel based.
It was John Grisham time.
Yeah.
Around then.
Number 4, Schindler's List.
Uh-huh.
Number 3, The Fugitive. What a fucking banger. Number 2, Mrs. Doubtfire, also a banger. And number 1, Jurassic Park.
Indeed.
It's a pretty good year. Pretty good 10.
I don't
especially those top 3.
Yeah.
Or top 4.
Yeah, I don't think it's a strong top 10. I think there are stronger films throughout the year. But
well, I mean, yeah. Like, why isn't Body of Evidence on that list?
Boy, did I thrash that on VHS.
There's certain parts of it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, like it is a very big year of movies as the last since we started the show this year.
Have been. I think funnily enough, I think Body of Evidence might be the most well known just because it was on that ratings ad on VHS for R rating.
It came out just after the Madonna sex book, so she was getting them out. She was all about it. Because she, after Body of Evidence, she then went and made like Dangerous Game.
Yes, the Abel Ferrara film, which came out this year as well.
Yep.
1983.
Yeah.
And she did this one.
Body of Evidence, though.
Because what's his name had come out already. Basic Instinct had come out the year before.
This was the clone movie.
And she'd followed that up with Sliver, though she made a Sharon Stone did, made a bit of a miscalculation with the masturbation scene where she looked like she was in agony. Like not beautiful agony. Agony. Tough wank.
Yeah. But because we've talked about before on the show, they used to do and kind of still do twin movies. There's always studios competing for the same kind of thing, and that was what Body of Evidence was. And it had Willem Dafoe in it, and that was before Willem Dafoe was like a really, really, really respected actor.
It was Willem Dafoe in the Michael Douglas part, Madonna in the Sharon Stone part, Julianne Moore in the Jean Triplehorn part. It's like...
Who was Wayne Knight?
Wayne Knight, I think.
Mark Holton. All right, so let's go through some titles. We got... Sniper came out that year, which I'm a big fan of that franchise. Yeah. In fact, the most recent installment came out this year. National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. I went to the cinemas and saw that. This is really a big year for cinema going for me. Yeah. Because this would have been the Croydon cinema with my mates who were old enough to get the bus, go and watch a movie on our own, and that was one of them. I'll do a few more before you jump in. The Vanishing, Summersby, Groundhog Day, Brain Dead, Army of Darkness, El Mariachi.
Leprechaun, the first Leprechaun film.
Mark Holton.
Mark Holton, yeah. Nowhere to Run, Children of the Corn 2, Matinee, CB4.
CB4, I've got that down. What a great movie that is. I adore it. That was Phil Hartman too, wasn't it? As well as Chris Rock. He played the manager.
Yes. Yeah. And what was it? Is I can always get CB4 and Fear of the Black Hat mixed up.
Do you?
One has Fear of the Black Hat. I think Fear of the Black Hat has booty juice, where booty juice comes right from the source. And what's the source? The arse, of course, which is great. And I think CB4 is the one that has, because I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blickety black because I'm black, y'all.
It turns out he comes from like an upper class upbringing. Yeah. We have A Far Off Place, Fire in the Sky, Point of No Return, a.k.a. The Assassin, Ninja Turtles 3, The Adventures of Huck Finn, which I watched 2 weeks ago. Pretty shit. Cop and a Half, The Crush, in Sandlot Kids.
Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, Hot Shots Part 2, The Son-in-Law, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, Heart and Souls, That Night, the movie that introduced us to Faith, Buffy.
Yeah, that's right.
Dazed and Confused,
oh my
Cool
God.
Runnings,
My God.
one of your favorites, Warlock, The Armageddon.
Indeed. Weekend at Bernie's 2, Free Willy, Another Stakeout, Robin Hood Men in Tights, Poetic Justice, So I Married an Axe Murderer, The Secret Garden, Jason Goes. There's so many. Yeah.
Wayne's World 2, Sister Act 2.
Yeah.
Three Musketeers, Man's Best Friend, which we played at Monster Fest, Carlito's Way.
3. Hey, the most important one, Ernest Rides Again. That was the final theatrical.
Ernest film.
Ernest Rides Again, the final installment before it went straight to video.
Yeah. True Romance. True Romance was 93. We're kind of burying the lead there. Needful Things, Undercover Blues, Demolition Man, Shortcuts.
Let me do some Australian films. We had Bad Boy Bubby this year.
Ooh.
We had Body Melt. We had Blackfellas. We had Frauds, which is actually, I'm surprised that Chad didn't do that. He loves frauds. Stephen.
Because he's a fraud. He's a fraud about frauds.
Heartbreak Kid, Hercules Returns, Love in Limbo, Reckless Kelly, and Map of the Human Heart. Like such a
Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
Did you talk about that? Mad Dog and Glory?
In the Name of the Father, Grumpy Old Men, Shadowlands, Tombstone. There's so many.
Judgment Night.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Rudy, the film that introduced us to Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau.
California, Needful Things, Hard Target. We could just keep going on.
Beverly Hillbillies. Surprised you didn't mention that one.
Yeah. There's just too many. So my favorite part of this is guessing each other's favorites of that year.
Yep.
Let me tell you, I have got 3.
That you guess for me?
No, you can guess 3. Like I've got 3 of my favorites.
Okay.
I've got 3 that I'm going to guess are your favorites.
Well, what you guess. You tell me your guesses for me.
Okay.
I'll tell you my guesses for you, and then we'll do our actual ones.
Okay. So my guess for you, I've
Yep.
got 3.
Okay.
I think if we can nail one of them, I think that's pretty good going.
I've actually got a bunch because it's
Same.
too hard.
So I just had to go. Like I've actually highlighted all of the ones I love, but Army of Darkness, Brain Dead, and Matinee I've got for you.
They're all in my.
They're all contenders.
They're all contenders
Okay.
in my list.
If you were to do a top 3, would any of those be in the top 3?
Oh, look, definitely Army of Darkness.
Okay.
Matinee.
Yeah.
Matinee was the one that I highlighted as my
okay.
top one.
Cool.
So for you, I think I just went with ridiculous ones.
You do
Mr.
that,
Nanny.
You do this every week.
Mr. Nanny.
Give me some
No.
fucking credit here.
Life with Mikey. No.
Not even close.
A Cop and a Half.
How disrespectful. I'm offended. Would you like to have a legitimate try?
Sister Act 2 I had. And it was like, you could tell me the name of the subtitle for Sister Act 2, I bet.
All right, so do you want to know my top 3?
Well, I want to know what the subtitle for Sister Act 2 is first.
Back in the Habit.
Yep.
Yep.
See, I knew it.
Well, come on.
I'm
it's not-
taking that one as correct.
It might not be in my top list, but it doesn't mean I don't know it. Fucking hell.
Because I just knew that you're such a big Lauryn Hill fan.
Oh, that's exactly why I watch it.
The Fugees. You're all about the Fugees
And
back in the 90s.
fat chick from Hocus Pocus.
Oh, Kathy Najimy.
Yeah.
I always had a crush on the Ginger Nun.
Are you looking forward to number 3?
No, not
Sister
at all.
Act 3? What would the subtitle
at
for
all.
that be?
Uh,
Don't fit the habit?
Sister Act 3.
I'm on The View.
What the 3? What a good 3. Sister Act 3, Hell on Earth. Sister Act 3, Armageddon. Sister Act 3, End of Days.
Sister Act 3, Braddock.
Braddock is missing.
All right, so my
This is
3.
Whoopi Goldberg Jones, the CIA.
Look, I'm gonna list my 3, and I'll go through a couple of others that I would put in the top 10. True Romance, definitely. The Fugitive, without a doubt, and Army of Darkness. They're the 3 that I sort of nominated. But then I would go, just to run off a few, definitely Brain Dead, Shortcuts, the Robert Altman film, obviously Warlock, Armageddon, Schindler's List, and Jurassic Park. And another one that I was like, I think more for wanky reasons, was into as a teenager because it was cool to like sort of foreign films.
Oh, hang on. So, okay. So, wanky, not wanking.
Not wanking. No, this is like pre-film school days, like,
Right.
just get into some really pretentious stuff. Still a great film, but like Water for Chocolate, I used to love that.
Right.
It made food sexy, and so that was a good thing in my...
What's the other one out that year as well? What's the other one? The Canadian lesbian film.
No, that was a few years later, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a great film.
Can't remember the name.
For
of it.
wanking purposes.
It's not Kissing Jessica Stein.
No. It's
No.
actually, it's like another,
All right, lesbian cook movie. Lesbian food movie.
is it Canadian? Lesbian film.
You should know, like Canadian cinema.
90s. Oh, look,
jam as
re-released it. Well, there's Better Than Chocolate. No, When Night Is Falling.
well. Okay, what year was that?
95.
Nearly there. All right, so they're my favorites for that year.
Well, so for me, I had, look, Army of Darkness, Matinee, and Fortress.
Oh yeah, and I'm surprised that James didn't choose Fortress because he talks about Fortress a lot.
Well, they did kind of mention it a bit, but
By
I
the
think
way,
that as a joke.
We're about to throw to their segment.
But-
and I've forgotten what they've talked about.
But they kind of mention it as a joke. But Fortress is a fucking great film. I think look, it'd be tough, but I think Fortress might be the one I've watched the most.
Have you watched Fortress too much?
No, I don't think that's possible.
I would like to know your opinion.
Oh, hang on.
of
Fortress 2. Have I watched Fortress 2 much?
Yeah.
Not have I watched Fortress too much? Because I don't think that's possible.
No.
You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yes, I did. Have you watched Fortress 2 often?
No. No, I haven't.
Have you watched it at all?
I definitely have watched it, but I think it was a video store watch.
That movie's got a porno subtitle.
What's that?
Re-entry.
Unless through the back door.
That could be the Sister Act.
The Sister Act 3 through the back door.
Sister
Oh,
Act
the
3 re-entry.
The re-entry. No, I had, but I also in my list, True Romance, Dave, which I love.
It's a good one.
Heart and Souls, which it's probably my favorite Robert Downey Jr. movie.
Chances are it was another
Elizabeth
good one.
Shue, and Dazed and Confused, and The Three Musketeers.
Yeah, I should have picked that for you because it's a banger.
Like that's the one at the time that I would have seen the most because I saw that. I mean, I did see. Look, I wagged school to go and see Army of Darkness by myself.
Good man.
And I don't think 93. I don't think I would have been 15.
I discovered Army of Darkness at a little neighborhood video store I had in Warrenwood, Little John Road, by the way, if anyone remembers that. That was a really, really tiny niche little video store. But I had no idea it existed, and it was flipped over so the cover said Evil Dead 3.
Right.
And I'm like, Evil Dead 3? Wow, I'm going to check this out. And then I found out it's kind of like a standalone movie. It's like it works in both directions.
The funny thing is, when I had not seen Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, it was your entry point.
It was my entry point. And I was like, this movie is fucking great.
So were you a bit surprised when you went backwards and discovered it's actually horror?
Yeah, totally. But it still had it still has the kind of Klaatu Verata Nektu kind of joke, even in the original as well. I think he doesn't remember it properly, or is that only in the second?
I think it's only number 3 where they bring that into it
because
it's the chant. It is actually from The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah.
It's the words from that. But, here's an interesting story. So, Good Movie Monday, this podcast began as fakeshemp.net, the website I used to run, and that came from Army of Darkness, all the fake shemps.
All the fake
Sam
shemps.
Raimi repurposed the term fake shemp for his stuff.
Yeah.
And the most famous fake shemp in Army of Darkness was Bill Moseley. He plays one of the Deadites.
Really?
Or Deadite armored soldiers.
This armor guy. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Are all those from the future loudmouth braggarts? Just me, baby. Just me.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, and today we're doing 1993. Chad.
Man, again, Glenn given this task of picking your favorite movie from each year is hard. Again, 1993 had some amazing films, but I gotta
his best friend.
Yeah, I've gotta go with Falling Down. Michael Douglas, Joel Schumacher. It was really close between this and another film, but man, I just love just watching as Michael Douglas gets stuck in crazy Los Angeles traffic and suddenly snaps and just goes off on this crazy spree of crime, trying to get just wanting things to be a specific way, and he just can't do it. In my opinion, Michael Douglas's best performance.
Believe it or not, I have never watched all of it, and I really need to. And I know that that's my fault, but it's just one of those movies for some odd reason I have never watched I've seen so many of the scenes, but I've never actually sat down and watched all of it.
And Robert Duvall playing the cop who's trying to catch him and doing it in his kind of smirky kind of way. It works perfectly. I love Falling Down.
One of the best movies where you follow the villain. It's kind of like Breaking Bad. He is the villain.
He's not an anti-hero. He's a villain.
Yeah, he's terrible.
But Falling Down.
I'm going to go with there's a lot this year, and I can't pick favorites. I can't, but there is one I've got to give credit to. It's very rare that a sequel equals the first one, and it's even rarer that it kind of surpasses it. And I will argue that Addams Family Values, I love the first movie. The second movie surpasses it in what it does. And that's largely because, and somebody pointed this out, I think it was actually Dana Gould pointed this out. He said, I'm not a fan of the Addams Family because it's like, oh, they're just weird and whatnot. But he goes, Addams Family Value does something that's really compelling. And it shows them that it puts them in situations where they are the normal. That summer camp is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
That summer camp, you will either join or you will be forced to align. And I think that's true. And so Addams Family Values, because of the villains, Christine Baranski and Wrong Me. Why am I blanking on his name? Peter McNichol. Oh. And then they are the villains for the B story, if you will.
Yeah.
And then,
Joan Cusack nails it. I mean, she is phenomenal in that film. She steals it.
Yeah, and and in that way, it's a phenomenal movie that I think does. I love the first Addams Family. I watched those movies a ton of times growing up. I love the Addams Family, old school ones. So I just love that thing. But the second Addams Family Value, it's what I wanted to see in theaters. It's what I went to that year, and I still can watch it anytime.
I'm having a hard time picking because I want to pick an actual movie. So the thing would be
Your answer is Fortress.
Is the one to say Tombstone.
That was 92.
As far as, but the problem is there's two movies that I absolutely have core memories about seeing them in the theater and loving them both. I will admit, if you don't mind, Cliffhanger, I saw it with my mom, and Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. And the reason why I'm picking those two is they're not great films, although Cliffhanger is really good. Actually, I would defend Homeward Bound's a really fun film for the family. It's a good family film. I don't think it's a kid's movie. But I remember crying my eyes out, and my mom was crying her eyes out at the end of Homeward Bound, where that damn old dog comes over that hill at the end. And it's just a core, sweet memory. I know, go ahead and shit all over me.
No.
That I do have,
No,
and it makes my life a little bit. There's not a lot of positives from about 1 to, how old am I? No, until about 18, 19. And that's just a positive memory. Both those movies, I enjoy them both.
I saw it on home video, and you're absolutely right. The dog coming over the hill,
When he was like, "Oh my God, he's alive!" and I was crying. I couldn't stop. My mom was sobbing. I was sobbing. It's a wonderful core memory of seeing it in London at the Regency Cinema 7. So
also Dave. I just want to say Dave. People don't talk about Dave.
That's Ivan Reitman, Jason Reitman's son. Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman's son. That's his favorite movie of his dad's.
Nobody talks about it. Anyway, sorry. I just want to say Dave is an honorable mention.
Matinee.
That's a good one. I saw that in the theater. This has been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
Fight. I didn't even think of Addams Family Values.
Yeah, no, it's the better of the two.
It is definitely, and it has that. You know, I just wasn't a huge fan of those films as what would I have been 14-year-old at the time.
Yeah,
I kind of thought they were a bit silly, but
number 2 is really dark.
Now I look back at them and I'm like, they're a lot better than I gave them credit for at the time.
You could not make number 2 now with the stuff that like Wednesday comes up with, like in that film. Like, it's so grotesque.
And I think, I can understand why the Wednesday TV series exists.
Yeah,
because her and Uncle Fester are the two best characters.
Yeah.
But in that Wednesday,
but I mean, like they make fun of suicide in these kids' movies. Like, it's just outrageous and wonderful.
Yeah. Now if they did that and one kid committed suicide, it'd all cop all the blame.
100%. Did you ever watch the third installment? Like, they made a third one.
No, I didn't even know they made a third one.
Yeah, so they swapped most of the cast except for Lurch. He was the same actor.
What else is he doing in between Star Trek Next Generation episodes?
Raul Julia was replaced by Tim Curry, and then Angelica Houston was replaced by Daryl Hannah. And the kids were replaced by just unknown kids.
I mean, arguably, Tim Curry is a great choice. Probably a better choice than Raul Julia.
But it reeks of, remember when they did the third Brady Bunch movie?
Yeah.
It kind of has that feel to it. Like, okay, we're going to go straight to DVD and we're going to recast most of it, and you can just pretend it's the same thing.
But the thing is that from reading the cartoons before the series, like for me, John Aston is Gomez, and it never occurred to me that he was in any way Spanish.
Yeah.
Even though he does that. I love it when you talk Spanish. I just thought it was just like that when the white guy was doing it.
If you're talking about an adaptation of the comic book, Luis Guzman is clearly the best of the...
the one who looks most like
That's right.
The character.
He's not handsome at all.
Because they're totally Boris and Natasha kind of Rocky and Bullwinkle types.
100%. Cool. Thanks, Boneheads. All right.
Time put up your dukes.
I did it before and no one picked up on it.
I picked up on it, but I was like, you're stepping on my Boneheads talk.
Oh no, but that intro happens there anyway. So but okay.
No, I get it.
Prolonged dukes.
It's Bells, aka Murder by Phone.
Yes.
Arguably a better title. Though that's the American title. It was released. I think it was released everywhere as Bells.
Look, having seen this movie, Bells is a terrible title for it.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't really...
Is it the name of the phone company?
It doesn't ring true.
Yeah. And Telefon.
Telefon.
Bells from 1982, Telefon from 1977.
Okay, so it kind of needs no explanation, but tell us why you chose this as a battle.
Because they're both phone related.
Exactly.
It's but apart from that, the movies are actually nothing alike, really.
They are not.
Although look, they do both kind of have a horror aspect to them.
There's no contest with this one for me. Can I just say that I hate Telefon. Like, it is such a terrible movie, and I know you're going to be shocked by that.
I would have. Like, I'm not saying for me, it's the exact opposite.
No, because
I actually like Bells.
I really like Bells. Like, it's almost like a slasher movie. Like, I love the kills. I love the tone of it. Whereas Telefon felt like an episode of Get Smart. Like, it just was like shonky.
It's directed by Don Siegel.
I know. Well, I mean, like, it's critical reception kind of supports where I'm coming from. Not that I ever pay attention to that, but it generally was not a favorable movie.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Donald Pleasance in a blonde wig. That was funny.
That's pure gold. That's pure gold. The only misstep for me was Lee Remick, who's such a weird, like the fact that she falls in love with Charles Bronson. So let's go through the premises. So Bells, directed by Michael Anderson, who also did things like The Dam Busters and The Quilla Memorandum and Doc Savage, Man of Bronze. If you know, you know. Stars Richard Chamberlain and John Houseman, and it's basically about a disgruntled telephone employee who figures out a way to kill people by calling them on the phone, and when they answer, they die horribly.
They hear a high-pitched squeal or tone that sends them into a convulsive frenzy, and they kind of
they die.
Yeah.
And Telefon is directed by Don Siegel, the guy behind Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Dirty Harry, Charlie Varick, and Escape from Alcatraz. Stars Charles Bronson, Lee Remick, Tyne Daly is kind of odd. Donald Pleasance and Sheree North, who's in a lot of Don Siegel movies and who's great in this. It was written by Peter Hyams.
Yeah, I know. That was interesting. Would have been a great film if he directed it.
I don't see how you can say that, because Don Siegel has, done some banger films. All these films are great, but you don't even like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
No, I don't. But have you read John Siegel's quote about this movie, which is hilarious? I've written it down. He was asked years later about it, and he said, "The movie made absolutely no sense. I did it basically because I'm a whore." I'm not trying to offend you. Like, I'm just like, this is just my opinion. Not a fan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's so many directors don't like their films that are great. So that for me doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just like, it's just an amusing anecdote to add to it.
So this one basically is about so Charles Bronson plays a Russian officer who's sent over to America because during the Cold War, Russia sent a bunch of deep cover agents in to assume the identities of dead people.
Yep.
And then they brainwashed them to not even know that they were deep cover agents. But when they get a phone call or someone says a line from a Robert Frost poem and their actual name, they will then carry out this sabotage. All of this, but the Cold War is over. The program has been abandoned, but they didn't bother cleaning up after themselves and taking care of these sleeper agents. And Donald Pleasance has basically cracked the shits with the with the Russian government because he's a Stalinist. So he goes over to America and reactivates all these agents, and they blow up things that have no longer have any military value, which is great. Like they blow up, like oil refineries that don't do anything, a telephone network that is not really connected to anything important anymore. All this sort of stuff. And Charles Bronson, he's sent over there with, they've got another American kind of sleeper agent who's his one kind of backup, but they haven't told her anything about the case. And she's constantly like going into his pockets and stuff like that. And he catches her every single time. And she is not in any way subtle at trying to worm out the information about what they're actually doing, because he's getting her to kill people in hospitals and all sorts of stuff, and he just won't tell her why. And she really wants to know, which is very un-Russian agent of her, because usually it should just be, just following orders.
Just do what you gotta do.
But But the thing that's kind of ridiculous is by the end of the film, she's fallen in love with him. He has absolutely no lovable qualities about him.
Features at all.
Like he does at the start, he's quite like he's teaching kids to play hockey, and he's quite generous and warm with the kids. But when he's on the job, he's just all business. No, but I still like. I just think it's a really fun Bronson action. Like not even that much of an action movie because he is basically just doing detective work.
Let me jump in there. So my wife made an observation while watching this, and it is like unbeknownst to her, the exact same observation Tarantino made about this film, and like it blew my mind that she picked up on it, right? Because she's sort of casually watching it in the background. She goes, "Have you noticed that they kind of just speed through the action and then focus on the mundane?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they kind of do." And then I'm looking it up on Wiki afterwards, and that's exactly what Tarantino said. He goes, "It'd be a great film if they didn't focus on the boring stuff." And actually put some emphasis on the action.
On the action. Yeah. The action, I thought the action was pretty good. Like
clearly, you're very protective of this movie.
I'm a big fan of it. Like when Cherie North is like just this, like a pretty well-off kind of mum. And it starts off with her telling her kid, like, if you're not downstairs in 10 minutes, no pancakes. And then she gets this phone call. And next thing you know, she's scrabbling in the dirt and setting off these dynamite charges at an oil refinery. And that aspect to me was terrifying. That these people are just, there's an auto mechanic and the guy who flies like a charter airplane business that's going out of business, and he's like a toothless kind of old man with a whinging wife and stuff, and he just like automaton goes and commits these horrific acts of terrorism.
So then you got Bells, and that's got Richard Chamberlain, which that was an instant draw card for me. But I think what I liked about this one the most, other than it is a horror film, it felt almost like an exploitation movie. Like it had that same tone of a lot of the Aussie slasher films. Like I'm thinking of that, is it Crossword or Crossplay?
Crosstalk.
Crosstalk. It felt like that kind of movie to me, and I'm just big into that tone.
Yeah.
And you can see the reveal coming from a mile away. That's the only thing. Like you know exactly where it's going, but it doesn't matter.
There's only one person it can be.
Yeah, that's right.
Like there's literally no one else in the film.
But there's two twists, right? And the first twist, that's the one you really see coming.
Yeah.
But look, I was captivated by this one. Like it just held my attention the whole way. Didn't get bored throughout it. John Houseman's always fun because I always think of Naked Gun because he's in that. And
not the Paper Chase.
No, there are plenty of like prestigious movies I could point to, but he was the driving instructor in Naked Gun. Wind your window down. Now extend your finger. Look,
he's also the guy in 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah, he's in many.
He's the CIA. He's always like that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, you chose these movies to duke it out, and I've chosen Bells. You've clearly chosen Telefon.
I mean, I love Bells too. I love them both. Yeah. I just really enjoyed Telefon.
Yeah.
I think Telefon and St. Ives are two movies that they've both Charles Bronson movies that have been critically savaged. And I think they're great.
Hey, welcome to my world where people don't agree with the movie you like.
Yeah.
It's fucking daily for me.
Yeah. Time for rapid fire recommendations.
I'm dead.
If only it were true.
Just because of Telefon. Fucking hell, I get it. They should remake Bells, by the way, with cell phones.
They could do it with cell phones. That'd be great. They could also do remake Telefon with cell phones.
But Larry Cohen's not around to do it, so why would you?
Yeah. I mean, imagine either of these. Both those films would be better if they were directed by Larry Cohen.
I'm sorry, I dragged the last segment into this one. Rapid fire time.
Imagine if Larry Cohen had directed either of those. It'd be fucking great.
They would be amazing.
Like written them as well.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Phenomenal. No.
So I'm going to kick things off. I once again chose a movie from the year that we looked at, 1993.
Good.
And I went back and watched a film that I have been wanting to watch since the video store days. Just for whatever reason, never did it.
Mm-hmm.
Though I love the trailer, and the trailer was everywhere. It is. I feel bad about this. It's Mr. Wonderful.
Yep.
From 1993, directed by Anthony Minghella. So this was his kind of first Hollywood film, first film after Truly Madly Deeply, which was actually a TV movie with Alan Rickman and Juliet Stevenson. It was made for the BBC Screen 2 TV movie series. And it stars Matt Dillon and Annabelle Sciorra with William Hurt, Mary Louise Parker, Dan Hedaya, who's great in it. Vincent D'Onofrio sings in it at a wedding. He's got a pretty damn voice. pretty damn good voice. James Gandolfini is in it in like a bit part, and he's as a kind of, and I'll explain. He's kind of like one of the potential suitors, and he's like
he was rising because True Romance. He was in that.
He's in that
year.
too. Yeah. And Jessica Harper pops up, and she actually sings in it as well for a little bit.
The other Janet. Yeah.
And so basically, this movie is about Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon and Annabelle Sciorra were married. They're now divorced, and he's shacked up with Mary Louise Parker. She dumped him. She went back to school, wanted to better her education and kind of move beyond the neighborhood that they grew up, because they've known each other since they were kids, and she just wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've kind of split up. And Matt Dillon and his friends, including Dan Hedaya, he's an electrician. He works for the city, does all of the, very much like the guy from Bells kind of thing. Like he works on in the sewers, on the mains and stuff.
Yep.
They want to buy an old bowling alley and set it up as a business for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't afford the buy-in because all his money's tied up paying her alimony, which she's using to fund her. So she's dumped him and is forcing him to pay for her schooling. The reason she dumped him, which is, so he decides that the best way to get out of having to pay her, the only way he can stop paying her alimony is if she gets married to someone else. Mm-hmm. So he decides to try and set her up on a bunch of dates. And what he doesn't realize is that she's kind of having an affair with William Hurt, who's her married college professor.
Gotcha.
But that kind of comes out as the film progresses. But he sets her up on a bunch of dates, including with Vincent D'Onofrio and James Gandolfini and a bunch of others.
Are
but
any of them the bowling alley maintenance man?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, why not? Like,
although you think that's where it's heading, but it's one of his friends.
Well, does Vincent D'Onofrio sing "Let's Bowl Tonight"?
No,
okay.
No, he sings. They sing. Funnily enough, they sing "Say a Little Prayer for You" straight out of my best friend's wedding, which I ripped this off at a wedding.
Yeah,
they sing a duet. It's like a weird auction thing, and they get this. The first item of the auction. No, it's because Mary Louise Parker's a nurse, and so it's got some, and the Vincent D'Onofrio character is a pharmacist at the hospital. But they get one of the I don't know what she actually does at the hospital, but this old woman come up and they auction off her bra. They make her take her bra off, like she kind of takes it off under her clothes, and her husband has to buy it. It's just a ridiculous thing. But then one of the other things is they have to sing in front of them, and it's supposedly spontaneous, but then the tape player kicks in.
Yeah, of course it does.
But it's great. It's a great scene. It's a genuinely entertaining film. And of course, during the process of this, they realize that they still love each other, and
nice.
rom-com stuff happens.
Nice.
But it's it's Annabelle Sciorra and Matt Dillon both at their most appealing.
I've seen it. None of it's like coming back to me, so I might have to. maybe I haven't seen it, but I think I have. So, talking about wonderful movies, I discovered one this week that is new to Netflix, and it is now in my top 5 of the year. It is such a good movie, and I think it is right up your alley. Vincent Vaughn in Nonnas.
Ooh.
This is wonderful. So, we put it on.
Vincent Vaughn. I like that you call him Vincent Vaughn.
Yeah, Vincent Vaughn was classy, hey?
Yeah, because his Nonna would call him Vincent.
Yeah, right. So, check out this cast, though, right? So, he plays a guy that he comes from an Italian community. His mother and grandmother have recently passed, and he's left just on his own, has a few friends around him, doesn't know what to do with his life anymore, and decides that the only thing that really meant anything to him from them was their cooking. Like they sort of passed down all these things. So he decides he's going to open up a restaurant, right? But it's based on a true story, by the way, and very accurately so. And he buys a rundown restaurant, does it up, and decides that he's actually going to get real Italian nonnas to be the chefs.
Right.
And they are played by Brenda Vaccaro.
Right.
Talia Shire.
Yep.
Susan Sarandon.
Yep.
And a younger one of the nonnas.
The sexy young nonna.
Not granddaughter, but sort of granddaughter figure was Linda Cardellini.
Love Linda Cardellini.
So she's in it too. It is delightful. My wife and I are watching it, and it started off, and I said, "Look, this is going to kick ass over Little Italy," because she loves Little Italy, which is a really terrible movie. similar kind of premise. And boy, did it afterwards. She's like, fuck, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah. I got onto the phone. I said, Mum, you've got to watch Nonnas. It's wonderful. And she goes, oh, I'll put it on my list 2 hours later. I watched it. It was amazing. It's directed by Stephen Chbosky, who did Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, okay.
And Wonder, which is a Julia Roberts movie. Just delightful. If you don't come out of this feeling good about life, you haven't got a heart, you haven't got a soul. Like
I was going to say it's interesting because I would have thought Vince Vaughn is way too old to have a living nonna, so I'm glad that that's not the thing.
No, and that's his whole dilemma is that he's aging and he's got no direction. Yeah. And so this is like his only chance at doing something meaningful with his life. And then obviously, like a lot of good true stories do, they show you the real footage at the end of the real restaurant. And the restaurant now, obviously after this movie, it's going to go gangbusters, but it has been a very, very successful restaurant in Staten Island for the last 15 years. And they keep, obviously, nonnas don't last forever. So they've been like getting nonnas from all over the Staten Island to replace like the nonnas that pass away. And so it's just this turnover of nonnas, but they also bring nonnas in from other cultures now, and they've got all these cuisines, and
yeah, right.
It is such a delightful movie.
Is Staten Island the Copland?
Great question.
Island?
So, do you know the location of Staten Island? Because
it's like it's
one of the boroughs. It's like not the borough, but kind of is. It's the 5th borough. It's beneath Manhattan. Yeah, I don't know. That could be.
Because that was the whole thing of Copland, is that they're it's where all the New York City cops live.
Yeah.
But they're not and Sylvester Stallone is the sheriff of the.
And that is one of the obstacles he comes up against, is that they're very protective of Staten Island and outsiders are not really welcome. And one of our friends used to own that restaurant. How dare you take their name off the sign out the front? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Tell you what, just check it out. Nonnas, if you just want a feel good movie, you can't go wrong.
I always want to feel good.
And Susan Sarandon is wonderful, kind of a little bit self-depreciating.
I just find it really sad that she's old enough now to be
and she's still hot.
Yeah.
She's still hot. And that's the thing, is she is the tarted up one, for lack of a better word. And the other nonnas, they don't take to her quickly because she's got the tits out. And
once a banger sister, always a banger sister, eh?
Yeah. She had her tits out, and I just started singing, touch me.
I want to feel dirty.
And then you realize she's a nonna.
I've realized that it's going to be an interesting video for you to edit, because I think I've been looking at the board as if that's the camera the whole show.
Fuck.
I'm just like talking to that. I miss not being able to see myself.
Eyes this way.
Yeah. That was the thing about Mission Impossible last night. There's an introduction by Tom Cruise at the cinema, and when you interview people, the interviewer always sits off to the side, and it works much better. It looks like they're talking to someone. When you do an introduction, you're supposed to do it straight down the barrel, as if you're talking to the audience. The way Tom Cruise did it was as if he was talking. The guy he was talking to was sitting just right of camera,
but not quite, because his eyes did dart in a couple
of directions. And it kind of comes back,
yeah.
But you kind of, throughout most of that intro, I was kept looking over my shoulder, going, "Who are you looking at? Yeah, who are you talking to?"
Yeah, if you're in the back row, you're a lucky boy. Yeah. That's for sure. Oh my god! But also, because it was clearly he was reading a prompter, right?
Yeah.
But you'd think he's like so passionate about Mission Impossible. This is a no-brainer for him. Just straight down the barrel, deliver what you got to say about it. You don't need a prompter.
Yeah, but look, you don't want to repeat that couch jumping, do you? If he gets too excited.
Hey, everyone.
I'm so excited about Mission Impossible.
I'm so glad you're here. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, and I'm not even looking into the camera. Sorry.
I did like that he kind of said, you're seeing it the way it's meant to in the cinema. And I'm like, well, I'm going to watch it again at home. But thank you.
This whole conversation has been a callback to the start of the show. Yeah. Full circle moment.
When are you going to address that middle tooth issue?
Well, we did. It's a cyanide capsule.
That's right. Pops it out. Chews on it. Just remember, it's my favorite line for they keep repeating that oath that they.
Yeah, they did. They did repeat it way too many times.
That oath is in the film a lot, but my favorite line in the film is that just remember it's only pain. Just tell you when she's about to get tortured. Yeah. Just tell yourself it's only pain. That's right. It's only pain.
It's no brainer.
I've tried to tell myself that at the dentist. It did not work.
I have tried to sort of deploy that train of thought many times. Like, it is just pain.
Yeah, you try and separate yourself.
But I also try to preempt things like I could possibly cut myself doing this. So just remember, it's only pain. It'll be over with.
Yeah.
Still hurts.
I had a personal trainer at the gym once, many, many years ago, who told me that the secret to dealing with pain was your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you can distract yourself, and that was the dad thing where you go, my finger hurts, and you're like, do you want me to take the pain away? And then you stand on your foot, and you're like, oh, you'd be like, yeah, your finger doesn't hurt anymore. But his thing was, he goes, imagine the room, now turn it upside down in your head and try and imagine what it would all look like. And while I was like, going on as hard as I can on the bike or whatever. And he said, you see, you can go a lot harder when you're not thinking about how hard you're going on the bike and you're trying to do this mental thing, then it actually...
I guess that's why I watch YouTube when I'm on the treadmill.
Yeah. I used to be a person who couldn't. I had to have like music at a certain tempo to kind of keep doing it. And that has changed. Now I just watch the bill.
Just the idea of us exercising.
It's ridiculous. It's funnier than Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning, even more Reckoning.
I don't know. That's a reckoning of the episode.
That's the final reckoning of this show.
All right, go to our socials, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and we'll catch you next week.
See you next week.